Hello and welcome to episode 305 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Weekly Podcast of Many Topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and listeners, you might remember 1 year ago we did 2 episodes on Persona 2 Innocent Sin. We're bringing it back right now 1 year later with 2 episodes on Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. And like Innocent Sin, it's mostly the same cast but with some changes. But let's reintroduce the panel for this month's episodes of Persona 2, starting with Leona McCallum.
Hello there, everyone.
And Zach Wilkerson.
Hello.
And Alana Hagues.
Hey there.
I am your inferior Eva Padilla replacement, but I will do my best anyway to discuss Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, which is a game 2000 for the PlayStation 1 that I am enjoying a lot so far. So this is going to be a positively toned episode, at least on my part. But let's figure out exactly how much Persona 2 each of us already knows. Introduce your, personal history with Persona in general, Persona 2 in particular. Anyone want to go first?
I mean, I can start. So I played Persona 4, I don't know, maybe like 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I don't know. It was before I joined the site. And then I also played Persona 5 before I joined the site, and I liked them both. Like, I thought they were both stylish, but I had like some issues with their presentation. But I also like adored the gameplay, and thought that it was a delight. And then I went back and I haven't played Persona 3. I've played Persona Innocent Sin. I hosted the previous episodes, and as is well documented on those episodes, I thought the story was transcendent. It was amazing, and the gameplay was bad. And so far with Eternal Punishment, I am less annoyed by the gameplay, but I also am less captured by the story than I was by Innocent Sin so far. But this is my second part of Persona 2, and I am enjoying it, but I don't think that it so far lives up to my love of the first.
That's interesting. I'll save my story and characters thoughts and commentary for later, but I did notice that I find the push-pull of dungeon crawling a little gentler this time around. I think maybe the game's grind is a little easier, is my suspicion, but it's been a little while since I've played Persona 2 Innocent Sin. But Alana, what's your Persona background and early thoughts?
I won't tread over too much from last year, but basically played Persona 4 2014, 2015. Similarly, like I kind of fell in love with it gameplay-wise. I liked the story at the time, have some weird feelings about it years later. Mm-hmm. Then went straight into Persona 3 right before I joined the site, so mid-2015, and loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And then jumped into Persona 5 when that came out immediately. I haven't played Royal yet, so I don't know how I feel about the additions on that. Generally, Persona is a series I've always been a little bit up and down on. And then I played Innocent Sin last year, and I think since then, I've almost thought about it, like, not constantly, but like it's been there all the time. I'm like,
it's living in your brain rent free.
To use a popular phrase on the internet in the year 2021, yeah, why not? But like, yeah, I just have been like constantly thinking about it. I think that the gameplay did bug me a little bit, but it wasn't too bad in my opinion, or at least I managed to wrangle my way around it a little bit. But yeah, the story, the characters, the way that game is so well laid out in so many different ways, I could not stop thinking about it. And if you listen to those episodes, I went a little bit out there. So I've been hoping for the same for Eternal Punishment. Full disclosure, I have almost beaten the game, so I will do my best not to spoil anything beyond like about around halfway through. Yes, I would agree with what Zach said. I think I really love this game, and like paired with Innocent Sin, it's perfect. Like I think they make two halves of a whole, really. But I would say generally, I think even though I adore the cast, they are not quite on the same level as Innocent Sin's cast. But I also think that the gameplay, the way it controls the battle system, all feels just a tiny bit better, which is just enough to kind of balance it out for me. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. I'm really excited to get to the end next episode.
Fabulous. And again, if your let's say excitability from the second Innocent Sin episode a year ago is any indication, I can't wait for Eternal Punishment Part 2, Alana, in a week, because that is an extremely great version of Alana. But Leona, let's talk about your early impressions with this game and your background with Persona.
My background with Persona, I got Persona 3 and 4 in a bargain bin in Ireland in about 2014, something like that. And I played them back to back and I loved them and I was like, I need more. So I got Persona 2, Eternal Punishment, and then I loved that. I played that but then I wanted even more, and I played like the fan translation of Innocent Time at the time, and I loved that. So I actually played the duology backwards. I played Eternal Punishment and then Innocent Sun,
Oh,
which was confusing.
Oh, I bet.
yeah.
Not a way to do it. I recommend, but yeah, that's I love Persona, like Alana said, and we talked about this on the Pride episode. My feelings on like Persona and stuff has changed as the years have gone on, and you get to know yourself a bit better and the world around you, and changes your perspective on it. But overall, I'd say they were very important games to me at the time, and I still love them pretty much. And I've beaten this game like twice now.
All right. Well, this is my first time playing Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. Well, yes and no, it isn't. Let me elaborate a little bit. I've given my Persona background on multiple episodes of the podcast before, so if this is not news to you, listener, I apologize. I tried playing Persona 1, Revelations Persona, many years ago, probably around 2000, because it had positive attention on sites that I read all the time, like RPG Fan and RP Gamer, and so I rented it and thought it was terrible. I was like, I don't think I made it past the second dungeon, but I was not. I decided, well, I mean, this was a disappointment, so I completely wrote off Persona. This was probably 20 years ago. Then a couple years later, mid 2000s, I see Persona 2 Eternal Punishment on for sale in a game store, and it was only $20. I'm like, well, this game is a little uncommon, and they're probably just unloading PS1 inventory and now that they're about to sell Xbox 360s. So I think I'll pick it up. So I picked up Persona 2 Eternal Punishment for cheap, and I tried it, and ultimately decided, okay, this is better than my memory of Persona 1, but this is confusing, and I have no earthly idea what is going on. And I think I got lost in the mountain path to the sanitarium. I think so. I definitely beat the first dungeon, and then partway through the second and third. I think, but my memory of that is vague. So this is technically my second time playing Eternal Punishment after that abandoned playthrough from 15 or 15 plus years ago. But then many years later, one of my close friends, Paul, is like, Sollosi, you need to play Persona 3. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Persona 3 is bad and confusing, or Persona is bad and confusing. And he said, so he gave me a copy of Persona 3 Fest for my birthday in the early 2010s. I played it. I loved it. I replayed it on a New Game Plus. Then I bought Steph Zabidlo's copy of Persona 4 for the PS2 and played that twice back to back. Then I played Portable and Golden. I was really obsessed with P3 and P4 for a couple years in the 2012-2014 range. Then I finally decided to revisit the Persona 2 duology, and I played Innocent Sin on my Vita. Let's say 5 or 6 years ago, mid 2010s. I could probably look up my old blog and find exactly when, but so I played that. Really liked it. Cried at the ending because I have a heart, obviously. And then when we decided to do Persona 2 for the podcast last year, I decided not to do it because it's like, that game's kind of long. I don't know if I want to replay it, and these 4 people are really excited to play it, so I'll just let them rip. And you did an amazing job. But for when we decided to do the sequel the following year, right now, I decided, all right, I'm finally going to play Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, and here we are. Thank you so much, and thank you for indulging me with that long story. But Leona alluded to it a few minutes ago. This is, Persona 2 is a duology, Innocent Sin, then Eternal Punishment. Eternal Punishment came out in North America and Europe, but Innocent Sin on the PlayStation 1, but Innocent Sin did not. But when both of those games were remade for the PSP, Atlas decided to translate Innocent Sin, but not Eternal Punishment, because they could just throw it on PSN and people could play it that way. And now playing them in order and properly understanding Eternal Punishment in context now, I realize why I was so confused 16 years ago, because like, how did anyone understand eternal punishment without context from Innocent Sin? How? It's
Right.
I don't know.
It's so important.
Within the first hour, it throws out like numerous terms that come up in the end game of Innocent Sin, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Let's write these down.
It shows you the end.
Yeah.
It shows you the ending. You meet Tatsuya as Deja Vu Boy. I'm like, why is he called Deja Vu Boy?
Right.
15 years
Which
ago.
is a great rapper name, by the way.
Right. Well, no, you'd have to spell boy BOI though. Yeah, you have to like Big Boy from Outkast or Paper Boy from the TV show Atlanta.
Right.
But like, you meet Jun's father Kashihara and the other Maya that stabs our Maya with the Lance of Longinus in like the school lobby 20 minutes into the game. The Innocent Sin context is so important here.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I didn't understand it. I thought like I got through it when I played it, but I was like, this feels like I'm missing something. Like, I just thought I was dumb and I didn't understand it. Like, clearly I've missed part of the game here.
Yeah, like drip feeds you, like, to not get too far ahead, but it does like drip feed you little bits of Innocent Sin, especially in the second half of the game when you get more involved with Tatsuya. But yeah, like I couldn't imagine like understanding or piecing together this game without the first half at all.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be honest, and I think you could probably understand it about as well. I mean, like, you get it. Like, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like they're talking about nonsense. I remember Innocent Sin. I remember them talking about nonsense. And like, they're like just like throwing out, like, I don't know, like, again, like I said this in the previous episode, like some like garbage that I see on Facebook is like literally what the plot of this game is. Like Donald Trump conspiracy theory BS is like what this game is. And like, it's the same thing again, like, oh, New World Order. I'm like, oh, I remember the WCW in the late 90s.
So do I.
But it's like, it's still just like total BS. And like, one of the things I like about this game is like, you don't, and it was true of Innocent Sin, I think, as well. Like it's a lot of, I'm sorry, like it's a lot of nonsense, but like the emotional core of the characters is the same either way. And like, you know, I think the thing that's most important is like Maya. Like Maya, I care about so much more because I knew her in Innocent Sin. But otherwise, I'm like, oh, this is a bunch of nonsense. Oh, yeah. That sounds about right. Because Innocent Sin was also a bunch of nonsense that eventually gave me an emotional core. So yeah, I guess it's my take on it.
Yeah, like to start with, Eternal Punishment, it's also the one that has the most tie-ins with Persona 1, which is not a game I had played. And so there's a whole middle section of the game, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, I guess you would be missing that emotional core if you hadn't played Innocent Sin, would you? So that is the
because I did the sewer route, which is the most to do with Persona 1.
Yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, I didn't feel like I was missing out in those like instances. Now that I think about it, I think it was more just like the later on in the game where they're just throwing around terms. I'm like, oh, I think it helps, but certainly, yeah, it's kind of the similar situation. Like,
it definitely adds to the theme.
I don't think it's crucial to know Persona 1 for Eternal Punishment, but kind of crucial to know Innocent Sin for Eternal Punishment. To give an explainer, which is something I will do whether people like it or not all the time. In Innocent Sin, there's a curse on the town that if enough people hear a rumor, it becomes true. That spirals out of control with kids spreading a rumor that one kid hears voices. That kid starts hearing voices, goes crazy, burns down a shrine, which breaks up this group of children that were playing together. 4 of the children forget about it. One of them goes a little crazy and uses the rumor system to become a super powerful being named Joker and assemble a team called the Masked Circle.
Oh my god,
that threatens to destroy the entire world. And it gets really, really crazy out of control. Hitler's eventually involved, but in Eternal Punish, at the end of the game, Maya is stabbed with the Lance of Longinus in a lair named after the Mayan underworld by another woman named Maya, and she dies without any possibility of being revived. And the other 4 main characters beg Philemon, the god that's been sort of sponsoring them and grants them persona powers, to save her. And he says, I can save her, but I have to completely erase this sin. So he sort of presses the re button and creates a brand new world where all 5 of the main characters from Innocent Sin are living happily, but they never met as children, and the events of the game never happened. But so that's where we are now in Eternal Punishment, but some of the events of the game do happen indirectly, like the kid that was like the rumor, the curse that makes rumors come true does happen, and that's done by a god named Nyarlathotep, whom we will talk about later, maybe next episode more. And the shrine still gets burnt down, but this time the kids aren't there to be traumatized and affected by it. So those 5 kids grow up, but instead of playing the Persona game as children and getting their powers that way, they all learn Persona skills different ways. Like Maya and Ulala mention like playing the Persona game a few years earlier, so that's how they explained to have Persona powers. Katsuya mentions playing it with his brother when they were younger, which another explainer there. Baofu, I don't know what Baofu's deal is right now, but he might be the final boss for all I know, because that dude is just that dude lives being mysterious, and we will talk about those people very soon. But essentially, Eternal Punishment is almost recreating, or at least echoing, the events and locations and situations from Innocent Sin, all driven by this guy named Joker, who is really a cat named Tatsuya Sudo, and he was was a minor villain in Innocent Sin, and now has the role of sort of a major villain, or at least a pawn of the major villains, because he remembers the events of Innocent Sin somehow, and is trying to recreate them by forcing the main cast of Innocent Sin into events like what happened in Innocent Sin. He even tricks June, one of the main who was a villain, then a main character of Innocent Sin, into the Sky Museum and tries to burn it down again, which is similar to a plot concocted by June in Innocent Sin. But this time June is an innocent bystander who doesn't know what's going on. But you have to do a children rescuing dungeon to resolve that, just like in Innocent Sin.
You have to do the same thing, yeah. That's what I was about to say.
So is this game? I mean, one thing that this game is a brilliant reuse of assets.
Right.
Telling a completely different story, quote unquote, completely different story, with a lot of the same game spaces and dungeons, but with a new context. But for some reason, some characters, including both people named Tatsuya and Maya a little bit, she like sees dreams or flashbacks of events of Innocent Sin, are starting to remember what happened in the other timeline. But that hasn't been totally explained or resolved yet where I am in the game. I recently finished the Smile Mall dungeon, and I'm like basically at the doorstep of the following dungeon, which I based on various guides, tables of contents I've looked at, is around the middle, maybe the 55% mark. I don't know. But I still have a lot of Persona 2 left to play, and I don't quite know what happens. But I've talked enough for now. Well, like, what do we think of Maya and the new crew, Ulala, Katsuya, Baofu, and the early goings of the plot of the game?
I mean, I like the cast. I really do. I think I like Baofu a lot. I mean, like... So, and I think that you may have mentioned this on Twitter, Sollosi, so I'm sorry for stealing your thunder here, but like, I do appreciate that it is a cast of adults who mostly act as adults, but like, one of the early bosses of the game is Ulala as a Joker, and like, one of the things that I don't think we mentioned was like, there's the same Joker curse that you had in Innocent Sin, but in this case, it like actually turns people into Jokers. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it doesn't really need to. Again, it's Persona 2. Like I just take it for what it is.
The Joker plot in the first game was people try to use a Joker phone call to grant wishes, and if their wish wasn't ambitious, then the Joker would steal their soul or something. And in this one, you try to use the Joker phone call game to kill someone that you want dead, like basically a supernatural hitman service. But then a little bit later, it's revealed that anyone that's done that can turn into a Joker, which basically means all of their hate and bad feelings rise up to the top of their psyche, and they turn into a mindless killing machine.
Right, yeah. It's a rumor that's spread by another character that causes that Joker curse to happen.
Oh, yeah. The fortune-telling lady. What's her name?
It's someone who works with
Longwang
someone.
Chizuru. That's it. Chizuru.
Yeah, Chizuru. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cast is good. Like Lala is like very like, I don't know, brash in the way that I usually like video game characters, and Baofu is mysterious, and Katsuya is like, I actually think Katsuya is the funniest.
I like Katsuya. He's my favorite.
I think he's delightful. Like he's like such a doofus. I can't believe I'm saying that about a cop, but like he's such a like an innocent doofus, and Maya still manages to maintain enough of like who she is from the original game, but like I like all of them. I probably like Katsuya the best, but like none of them to me have like the same punch as the teenage cast from Innocent Sin did.
I think because the teenage cast in Innocent Sin kind of subverted teenage tropes of characters in JRPGs, while adult characters are either like not really done at all, or they're just like they're archetypical tropes already. Olala is a drunken, woman, and Balf is a mysterious like gangster. Like these are all things we're familiar with, while the Innocent Sin cast were all kind of like deeper than your average teenage character, a lot more gritty.
Right. I think as well the teenagers had a lot more stakes in the actual story. Like there was a lot more like there are like little bits for all of the main cast in Eternal Punishment, but like Innocent Sin, like it all felt so much more deliberate. Whereas you've got like, Jun is literally the Joker for 2/3 of the game. They're literally like the main villain, and there's various different things that tie them into the plot and that make them more relevant. Whereas here you've really got like some more looser connections, like Katsuya by proxy through Tatsuya, I suppose, has the most involvement, and also his police chief ends up being one of the slight antagonists at one point. So he's got a little bit of involvement. Obviously, Balfu's got the mafia, the Taiwanese mafia group who are over. Ulala doesn't really have much. She's just kind of Maya's best friend, and
I mean, she's like the fortune teller that we were just talking about. She's like a follower of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like one of the things that sticks out to me or stuck out to me for the first half of Persona, this Eternal Punishment, is like there's a lot of like discussions about what it means to be an adult and what it means to be like, I don't know, like what's a teenager, and like especially like later on, like characters are like, oh, you're all adults, and like there's a conversation between Ulala and Balfu at one point where Ulala's like, oh, Katsuya's got his life sorted, Balfu's got his life sorted, and I don't have my life sorted. Does that mean I'm not an adult, kind of thing? And so it plays with that a little bit as well. So like I love the cast. I think they're great. I do think the synergy between the Innocent Sin cast is way better. These feel a little bit more put together and cobbled together in certain situations, but I love them individually for different reasons. So I'm excited to talk about how they kind of grow and how they go through their own, like get their own little arcs as we move along. Although Lola kind of has hers in the first half, really. So
yeah, Ulala's big moment is one of the early dungeons. It's revealed that she used the Joker curse, and is terrified of turning into one herself when she sees the TV report from Chizuru that anyone that's done it might turn into a Joker. So she shoves everyone out of the room in the gym that she's using and locks the door, which is a pretty heads up move on her part.
I like that.
Yeah, and then you do an investigation, realize that maybe she was targeting this guy that stole a lot of her money, which is which was a minor plot point in Innocent Sin. And when you navigate through the gym and then confront Ulala, she realizes that in a bout of drunken jealous stupidity, she put Maya's name into the phone, because just because of she didn't want to kill Maya. She just was at a low point at a bar. She had lost a lot of her money. She's the fortune telling stuff she really believes in hasn't been working for her. And she's like, man, what's my friend Maya is pretty and has her life together. Screw Maya. I'm going to kill her in the Joker app, kind of.
Like it's like it's anyone who has a friend or even a sibling who is seems like has their life together a lot better than you do. It's easy to become jealous of them, I think.
Seeing them act this way, and seeing Ulala act later in the game made me realize, oh, she really is friends with Maya and loves Maya like a friend. But in this, moment of petty jealousy, she almost killed a lot of people, which is which is a little crazy. But I really really like this cast, and like thematically, they're all presented a certain way. Like Ulala believes in things like fortune telling and was too trusting of this guy that scammed her, and in a way that like she's kind of rough around the edges in a way some kind of tough girl characters are, but also is a dreamer that but her dreams sort of don't work out or backfire, which makes her a slightly more relatable character than a hyper optimistic teen, I guess.
Yeah.
And Katsuya is a cop who really believes in justice and wants to be a good cop because he's haunted by his disgraced father, who was a cop that was set up for something, and tries to be a good older brother to Tatsuya. But then when two of his superiors are definitely corrupted and working for the bad guys, he Katsuya sort of refuses to cooperate. And Baofu, I don't know everything about Baofu yet, but I can tell he has a connection to Tatsuzo Sudo and some other people with the government. He's currently on the hunt from the Taiwanese mafia. So I think what happened was he was part of the government, or maybe worked for Tatsuzo, and then something bad happened. He had to leave for Taiwan, got in trouble with the Taiwanese mafia there, and now he's in Japan working as a rumor monger and like black market information dealer, and that's who he was in Persona 2 Innocent Sin. He was an online only presence that would gather rumors for you, and this time it's like you see the face behind the avatar, so to speak, in Eternal Punishment. But they all come together around the time of the second dungeon and are your core cast for most of the game. You get a fifth party member a little later, and then I know I've spoiled myself a little bit, but I know that the fifth party member eventually departs and is replaced by Tatsuya, the main character of Innocent Sin. But not a crazy spoiler, because there's a lot of him in the game's awesome 2000 CGI opening.
Oh yeah, so good. I think
it's fantastic.
What I kind of took from the cast of our main characters is like they all kind of, as adults, are struggling to. When you're a teenager, there's this kind of idealized way of living, right? Where things like Olala's fortunes may as well be true. It's sort of optimistic, but the real life is a lot crueler than that. So Maya's got her dream job as a journalist, but she's always being pushed around by her boss to take, seedier work or change it around to make it more palatable. And Olala, she's got these dreams of these sort of girlish dreams that are kind of naive and innocent, and the real world doesn't operate like that, and it kind of turned her into a mess. And you've got Katsuya, who's a policeman, and obviously being justice, is in the real world is a great moral, but it's also more complicated than that. And Katsuya finds that out through the corruption within the police. And I won't go into Balfour in case of spoilers, but similar with him, I think it's definitely a sort of theme among this cast.
Yeah, a lot of games, or maybe just the general spirit of being a young person, like teenagers are supposed to be finding themselves. They're not supposed to be finished products. Exactly. But the four main characters here are adults and are supposed to have, found their place or achieved their dreams, maybe somewhat. Even though I think Ulala and Katsuya are only in their 20s, and I definitely thought Baofu was 45, but it turns out he's 32, and. Okay, look, maybe I've just been spoiled. Maybe I'm just terrible at telling how old people are, which is true. But not true. I can tell how old the dog is, but not a person. I don't know what that says about me. But maybe Yakuza Like a Dragon gave me weird
he does not look 45. As a 30-something,
yeah,
I'm offended by that comment.
Baofu, Katsuya, Baofu, Katsuya, and Ulala are adults that haven't really found themselves. Like Katsuya is doing exactly what he wants to be doing, but he's going against the orders of his superiors and is sort of always being forced down. Ulala almost seems like an overgrown teenager, and she has a lot of optimism and fire, but she's she's looked down upon for not being married or having a boyfriend. I'm not totally sure what her job is. Is she like a waitress or a bartender? Or
She's
something?
a lingerie seller, isn't she? She
That's
sells
right.
lingerie.
Yeah. Okay, I don't remember that, but I believe you because it's been so long since I played Innocent Sin. But like they're always bagging on Ulala for her likes and tastes, and Baofu is someone that is clearly disgraced and on the run and has a history, but I mean he's basically a wiretapper and blackmailer, which is so all of these adults are adults that haven't that aren't fitting like they're supposed to be as adults, which is awesome. I mean, other than Yakuza Like a Dragon, again, one of my favorite games of the past 10 years, I struggle to think of an RPG cast that is so deliberately outcasts that have not real, not close to real, but somewhat relatable issues.
You say Katsuya wanted to be a cop or a detective. I don't know if he does. Like, there are numerous conversations you can have with Katsuya where he suggests he wants to be a pastry chef.
Yes.
Like, he wants to do a lot of cooking, and he talks about, like, obviously, like, the reason he entered the police force was because his father was disgraced, because, really, at the end of the day, he's his father's oldest son, so he's got to redeem his father and find out what happened to him. But, like, he talks a lot about using alcohol for cooking. He talks about, like, not liking sweet stuff, or liking sweet stuff and making pastry and stuff like that. Like, that's his dream job, and he still can't do that because now he's got to fix the mess of his father. Or
he has to live up to the expectation that because he's the first son, he has to follow in his father's footsteps in a way, and also at the same time redeem his father.
That's even better than what I suppose. I definitely remember him mentioning the pastry stuff once, but I probably didn't do enough talking in between missions because I didn't notice a pattern with it.
Yeah, I remember the conversation I had with him where he was like, I don't drink alcohol. And I was like, what do you do with it then? And someone was like,
I use it for other purposes.
Yeah, he's like, I use it. What do you do then? And someone was like,
pastry chef. He takes shots through his eye.
Right. Like, you use it to, like, knock people out? What's going on, Katsuya?
No. I've had many a delicious rum cake before, and I would love to see his take on that. But that just makes me like Katsuya more, honestly. The other quirk to his personality I find amusing is how he likes cats and think they're very cute, but
he's such a soft boy.
He's deathly allergic to them, and his persona is a cat.
Is a cat. Yeah,
even better.
My favorite Katsuya thing is there's a thing you can do where you can go to the police. I'm sure I've told someone here. You can go to the police station and talk to like these two police women who like gossip about him. And there's one.
It's the absolute best part of this whole game.
And like they totally fancy him. And there's this one conversation you can have. Well, there's two. One of them's like him eating curry and then having coffee and then complaining it's too hot. And then the other one is where they're talking about like White Day, which is Valentine's Day in Japan. But in Japan, on the 14th of February, it's women who give men chocolate.
Yep. And then sometime later, White Day, the men give the women chocolate back.
Yeah, it's the 14th of March.
Or gifts back. Yeah.
Yeah. And they say like, oh, and one of them's like, oh, I made Katsuya a chocolate cake, and Katsuya said to me, it's not my birthday. Why are you giving me a chocolate cake? Like, Katsuya, you're a wannabe pastry chef, and you don't know what White Day is. It's like, come on.
I think he knows. I just don't think. I think he's so like oblivious. He doesn't recognize the insinuation here. It's so funny.
He's a kind of character I really like, where he is very smart and competent in certain situations and completely hopeless in others. And you can play that for humor or for a more a more serious part of his personality. And it's great. I love all four of these main characters. Genuinely.
Yeah.
Right.
My last Katsuya thing I want to bring up, and we can move on. Sorry.
No, this is the podcast now.
There is like when you do, because I did the laboratory route as well as Leona, and there's a bit where you break inside the laboratory, and Katsuya's like, there's these like dead people on the floor, and Katsuya's like complaining. He's like, oh, we're going to like save these people. But hang on a minute, we're trespassing. What am I supposed to do about this? Like,
priorities, man.
Anyway, yeah, Katsuya is my favorite.
But we don't have a warrant.
and especially how Baofu has completely no disregard for the law, while Katsuya has a comic
Mhm.
obsession, or like sort of Dudley do-gooder
Mhm.
attention to the law. Their interactions are great, and
Oh
both
yeah.
of them, but both of them have interactions with Ulala, where again Ulala sort of a rough woman, and like they are so mean to her, and she gives
Mhm.
it right back and curses more than everyone else in the cast put together, which is
She does.
fantastic. um but and also, man, like we can talk about contacts later, but the contacts that these weirdos have together, with
Flamenco de Pasión.
Yes. Yeah. If you talk to Ulala at one point, and she mentions taking dance lessons, and talk to Katya at one point, and where he mentions that he bought a guitar, they can do a
Oh.
contact together where they have a like Spanish flamenco dance, and it is awesome.
Oh, it gets better. Don't worry.
Yeah, it does.
It
I
gets
mean,
better.
you can add Ellie to it as well, but
Oh,
I know
can
that
you?
two of you don't have her, but yeah.
Mhm.
I do have
Oh.
Ellie in my party. I went the TV studio route instead of the
Same
school
here.
lab route. Yeah.
You can add her to the contact.
Oh.
Does she sing?
She dances.
She dances.
Oh, so two dancers. Well, there's still more. Don't worry.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's just talk about gameplay for 5 minutes, just so this isn't
Okay.
a celebration of all of these characters. It brings back the almost identically the gameplay from Innocent Sin, but because I think most of us played the PSP remake of Innocent Sin, but I mean probably all of us, I don't want to assume though.
Mhm.
The battle interface is a little different. In the remakes, they showed a sort of a character turn order, a little bit like a Final Fantasy X
Mhm.
or a Radiant Historia. That was a little easier to understand than the menu-driven turn manipulation that you can do in Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. But basically, you can program what order your characters act in, and enemies, which can mess around with your agility-based initiative order a little. But if you have characters cast certain spells in certain orders, they can do fusion spells that are very powerful. Fusion spells are amazing, and you should try to use as many of them as you can.
Oh,
You
God.
should never do anything except use a fusion spell.
Yeah, right.
Unless you desperately need to cast Samare Karm or
Media.
something, you should
Or Meteorama.
right, exactly. Unless it is absolutely necessary, every act you take in this game should be a fusion spell.
And yet, I feel like it does take away a lot of the difficulty of the game. I feel like
It does.
the game,
once you know the secret, which is just use fusion spells, the game's very easy.
dungeon runs are so easy because if you have one of a couple fusion spells, like if you can cast Mega Blaze and Tidal Wave, or maybe
Yeah.
I forget what the Earth and Wind versions of those are. Like
Oh,
if you have
Stone Rise and Windcar, yeah.
yeah, no, those are the single target.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not important. But if you have like the multi-target elemental spells, you can wipe out almost every dungeon encounter like it's nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
and your SP, which is this game's version of MP, heals when you walk, and heals when you level up, and heals after certain demon contacts. Contacts are demon negotiations where you can do a lot of goofy things to try and get demons on your side, and if they are on your side, they'll give you gifts or give you cards, and you can use the cards to summon better personas. Listener, you probably already knew that, but I think I should mention it just because this is a podcast that is somewhat informative about the games that we talk about. But the combat, like the risk of going into a dungeon and having to pull out when your health gets low or something, is almost gone because the dungeon encounters are not challenging, and there's a lot of ways to heal yourself.
I'm not paying that fairy any money.
Right?
Trish deserves none of my money.
I have paid Trish twice. Once was for ice cream, and once was by accident.
Ice cream?
You can spread a rumor that she sells ice cream, and that allows you to get food items for stat boosts in dungeons.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's expensive though. It's like
10,000
yen.
You shouldn't do it. Yeah,
10,000 yen for a scoop of lychee sorbet is just a crime.
That's crime. We've had many a conversation about sorbet in our time together, Sollosi. This is a controversial take.
Yeah, I have strong feelings about sorbetto and gelato, and Trish is a criminal. But anyway, Katsuya should arrest her for just general things. Yeah. But anyway, like this game has, I think, some challenging boss encounters, but but because fusion spells are so powerful and not that hard to figure out if you experiment a little bit, it doesn't totally trivialize gameplay, but a little bit trivializes the game. At least the dungeon running.
It's way easier. Yeah, like I think I realized very quickly, like Controversially, I think I prefer this to Innocent Sin's gameplay. There are a lot of things that are a lot simpler to me, like the menu system that they use over, like, I can't even remember how they did it in Innocent Sin. It just feels so much more logical to me to put people in an order that you know the fusion spell's going to work in. You can also auto do that. You can go into the menu and go, I want to use this fusion spell. Okay, it puts them together, puts the right persona, the right spells, and then puts them right at the top of the list. And then all you've got to do is like shuffle that list around. But like the one weird thing to me that feels a lot easier. Well, there's two things. Like, one, I think contacting is a lot easier. It's still a pain in the butt, but there seems to be a lot less variables. And sometimes in Innocent Sin, I felt like I would try and do a contact and give the right answer, and it wasn't the right answer, and then the next time it would be. And that still does happen in Eternal Punishment, but way less frequently.
Yes, sometimes you'll have the reverse tarot version. So like every demon has two ways they can respond to something.
Yeah, it feels way less frequent in this. But the other way I found it easier, and this is perhaps more specific to like dungeon crawling, is the camera feels way less sensitive than the PSP version. And I feel like it like whenever I used to do it when I was playing the PSP version, like it used to like zoom off to like left or right like massively, whereas this one I can like tap it along and it's like totally fine. And like the dungeons still aren't great. Like there's some really 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 long ones like towards the middle and the end of the game. Like
the TV studio took me a while.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was like a 3.5 hour dungeon.
You're supposed to find 8 rooms. And Ellie, who's with you, knows some feng shui, and she recognizes the feng shui symbols, and so she's saying, "Oh, we need to just go through studios 1 through 8 in order." But because you're trapped in a mirror world, 4 of the numbers have the mirror reverse versions of those numbers. Is the trick there? So you basically have to find 8 rooms in a certain order, but half of them are out of order, and
they're on like 6 different levels of the dungeon.
Okay, while the boys are complaining about the TV studio, Alana, why don't you tell them about the sewer?
Oh, yay, the sewer. I love sewers. So how would you like a sewer that
I'm in the sewer business, in fact.
You are in the sewer business. You might not love these sewers. I don't know. How do you feel
Does
about
anybody love any sewers?
How do you feel about time limits on sewers, Sollosi?
Oh no, I do like sewers for professional reasons only. Of course, I'm a professional manhole inspector, not a recreational manhole inspector. But timed dungeons.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Timed dungeons are one of my least favorite things. So a timed sewer dungeon when I am playing on my own time and not at work. Not sure about this.
Yeah, so like it's 3 sections and every section is 10 minutes, which feels like a decent amount of time, but it runs in the menus, it runs in battle, it runs all the time.
Yeah.
But it does only send you back to the beginning of the area if you don't get out in time. So you don't take any penalties, but like if you're trying to navigate it around, you know what sewer dungeons are like in RPGs if you played enough of them. They're
like parallel paths with water you can't cross in the middle of
then
you find a bridge and now you have to explore the other half of the same tunnel. It's like, oh, great.
You're explaining Xenogears now, aren't you, really? Like...
Even Suikoden 2.
Oh, yeah.
There's no escape.
Even Trails of Cold Steel I played last year. That I think those games have multiple. Every Trails game has a sewer dungeon somewhere. Sewer dungeons are practically a meme in our niche RPG circles, but they're also kind of a joke that's telling the truth. So complaining about sewer dungeons is a tale as old as time, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure is.
And I have to acknowledge that even as a sewer professional, but yeah, around that point in the game, it's I don't know, is maybe the 1/3 mark of the game. You learn that there's a sort of small resistance movement fighting against Tatsuzo Sudo and the New World Order.
I love these names.
Right. Tatsuzo Sudo.
Tatsuzo Sudo.
Katsuya. Like.
And
I need it all to stop.
and now they're bringing back Gozen, which was something I played last month in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, along with you, Zach. And
let's not talk about Nocturne,
sure.
please.
Yeah, but anyway, but the Eternal Punishment negotiations are way better than the demon negotiations in Nocturne. So this just
at least they actually make sense.
Right, like basically, I played a more punishing version of these negotiations last month.
Yeah,
they seem great to me right now. But
I agree.
But anyway, at that mark, you can you're like, well, we need to make contact with this resistance group, so let's spread a rumor that a man or a woman was seen at this location, and that lets you basically choose whether you decide to spread a rumor about a man or a woman. You get to choose whether you team up with Nate or Ellie. And let's get into a weird localization thing for a while. In 1996, when they localized Revelations Persona or Persona 1, they gave most of the characters weird westernized names. Like Eriko became Ellie, Kay became Nate.
Let's not use weird westernized names when one of them is my name.
Right.
That's a pretty weird name.
That's right. Yeah, one of them became Alana. I forgot. And but anyway, and one of them was renamed Mark, which brought us the Mark Dance Crazy image that is, that's polluted the GameFAQs forums for 25 years. But so for this, they didn't use that weird localization choice in 2000. But when they brought back all these Persona 1 characters, they sometimes gave them two names, like the guy who's a Kandori, one of the main villain of Persona 1, who's a minor villain now, who I think has been revived from the dead. I'm not sure, but like he was called Guido in the Persona 1, but then they sort of retconned his name and said that was an alias, and now he's Guido Kandori.
It's a good way around it, but yeah.
They tried to preserve the names from Persona 1, but now they're surrounded by all these Japanese names in Persona 2. So it's just a little confusing, a little backwards seeming.
Yeah, so if I call him Nanjo, then sorry, because that's his surname,
right.
And that's like what everybody's referred to him as. So yeah, sounds better than Nate. He's not a Nate.
No, he's not a Nate. I don't really buy Eriko as an Ellen either.
Ellen is such a weird one.
Right? Yeah.
I know that the girl who's the center of one of the storylines in Persona 1 is Mary now. I think she was
Mary hangs out. Sorry,
she was Maiko or Mariko, I think, in the
she might be
Japanese.
Eriko maybe, but yeah, she's she actually hangs out in the therapy area in Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. You can talk to her a lot of times, and like especially, I don't know if you can do this with Ellen, but like with Nanjo, you can certainly go and talk to her and give her updates on what's happening with Guido. So yeah, there's a couple of other like Persona 1 NPCs, and it's the same with Innocent Sin, because obviously some of the rumor mongers are from Persona 1 as well. Yeah. So yeah.
All right, yeah, the guy at the sushi restaurant was the Mara user in Persona 1.
That's right.
I forget his name though. Again, I'm terrible with names in general, and this game throws so many names at you. I'm definitely gonna forget a bunch of them.
I kind of like this sushi guy because like he uses his persona to help with his work, and I thought that was like a cool idea. Like we don't really see that in the Persona world, people actually using their personas in a very mundane way.
Especially since he was using his in an uncomfortable way in Persona 1. He's a boss fight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, back to Persona 2, the one we're supposed to be talking about today. Okay, let's see. Tatsuya Sudo was, because he was hearing voices and burned a shrine down, his father had him committed to a sanitarium. But when Sudo started remembering the events of the previous world, he used he wrote all kinds of demon symbols in the sanitarium, and I believe summoned Nyarlathotep to get Joker powers. And then when Tatsuzo, his father, discovered this and discovered the whole rumor system and the demon power system, he became involved in an organization called the New World Order that's using the rumor powers and these this weird what's the Joker energy called?
Kagare.
Yeah, Kagare. They're trying to use Kagare to basically bring about the apocalypse by summoning the samurai founder of Sumaru City, who's now occupying a being in a shrine named Gozen. So like with Gozen as their idol, they're gathering Kagare, using a Kagare machine to try and end the world. Right. It is a whole lot of as Zach alluded to earlier.
But indeed,
but it's good. I mean, to a degree, I really enjoy wacky anime BS, and this is exactly that.
It's essentially that, like, because the point that you go to the laboratory, because obviously, like, the laboratory events and the TV studio events happen at the same time, so you only get to see like one half of it. But the reason you're going to the laboratory is because Nate K. Nanjo, he's from a really rich family, and their family owns the laboratory, or they sponsor it through Tatsuzuo. And Tatsuzuo and the New World Order are using that laboratory to capture people who've taken the Joker curse and trying to take this Kegare off of them. And Kegare is like a concept that's described throughout the game, and it is essentially like sin or jealous energy from people.
It's negative feelings, jealous energy. But they use Kegare and they use sin as a metaphor all the time. It all sort of bleeds together.
I've heard the terms innocent and sin at least 7 million times in this game. It's a little much.
They're gonna hit you around the head with a Bible at some point. Like
that feels like hyperbole, but I'm gonna trust your numbers here.
Okay, 6.5 million. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, but yeah, like so it's kind of the opposite or similar to what was happening in Innocent Sin, because where the Joker was like pulling or using ideal energy or pulling ideal energy from people to turn them to like stone, essentially. So it's like a mirror of those events, kind of. But Kegare, Tatsuzuo wants to basically cleanse the world of sin because humanity has sinned. So whatever they've done, I don't know.
But then also make turn Sumaru into a floating city and end the rest of the world that isn't floating.
Where have I heard that before?
Sumaru just likes to float. I don't know.
I know, right? What's with these like crazy gold like spaceships that people have invented that have become the collective unconscious of the people of Samara City? Like, what is this?
Alana, have you been watching YouTube again?
No, I haven't. The game literally tells me this. I've got a photo of it.
I mean, it is anime nonsense when they, a curse that brings conspiracy theories to truth completely screws up the world, but I mean, just seeing a little bit of what conspiracy theory activity is like in the real world makes if that curse was nonfiction, I think the world would have ended probably earlier this decade, if not sooner.
I mean, I also have my 5G chip. Yes,
but we could all be saved by the.
And I got my 5G chip when I got my COVID vaccine.
But we could all still be saved by the gay agenda.
Yes, Leona. The alliance of the Elders of Zion and the trans rights movement are controlling the world from behind the curtain. Of course.
I also took the red pill.
But it's like
I'm torn whether to keep that in the edit or not.
Please do.
Just do it. I had my Nazi joke pulled out last time. Please keep this one in. You have the power. But to pull it back a little bit, I think it's interesting a lot of the parallels with Innocent Sin, and maybe this is what I meant to get at earlier when Leona was like, oh, you probably would be good to like know what Innocent Sin does, because there are a lot of parallels like this, and you could probably like pull this just by playing the game anyway, because like, Innocent Sin is like the Nazis, quote unquote, and Hitler, quote unquote, and this is like New World Order, which is like a conspiracy theory group, and
like the Illuminati or similar, maybe.
Something I was familiar with when I first played this game. I'd never
Have you not seen the back of a dollar bill yet?
Oh no, not this again.
Did you not watch The Third Man betray WCW in 1996?
I watched that just last week. No,
but basically Hollywood Hulk Hogan like ripped off his shirt, revealing another shirt underneath, and that changed.
Oh, wig reveal! I know about wig.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the baby gender reveal party that shook the world.
Oh my god! Okay, look, I'm not done yet. Let me pull this back.
Try as you may.
Some other smaller comparisons that I was making throughout, like silly things. Like, I just want to check: does the Elia Shrine fire happen in this version of the world? Because I don't think it does. Because you go to the shrine at one point, and they talk. This is later in the game, so this is a minor spoiler. You go to the shrine, and Katsuya's like, or somebody says, "Oh, this shrine caught fire," and Katsuya's like, no, it didn't. This shrine's never caught fire before. And like, I don't know whether, and this is totally sort of unrelated, but like Katsuya in the other side, which is the side of Innocent Sin, is an arson detective. In this version, he's a homicide detective. So there's another like parallel, because that's what, and it's interesting that Tatsuo Pseudo is whatever, like that's who he's after. And in Innocent Sin, he's the arsonist because he's the one that burns down Elias' shrine. And in
Right,
Eternal
okay.
Punishment, he's the Joker who's the murderer. So
Yeah, he's still hunting
Yeah,
whatever his name is.
yeah, he's still hunting
the
Tatsuya
same
Suo.
person. Yeah.
Right.
Bagman.
Pseudo.
Bagman.
The
Yeah,
bag.
Bagman is Tatsuya Pseudo. His father is Tatsuzo Pseudo, and the main character of Persona 2 Innocent Sin is Tatsuya Suo, and his brother is Katsuya Suo, and everything is so confusing, and they're not playing fair here.
I
At
need to
least,
stop.
it's not like
Yeah.
the prophecy of Maya is inflicted on
Yeah.
Maya, who has the persona Maya, who is killed by somebody called Maya.
Maya.
And by Mayans.
Yeah, and
I forgot about the Mayans.
both the aliens are Mayans, and the ancient civilization that predicted this was also the Mayans.
They did.
But anyway, going back to the fire, I thought the fire did happen in this world also, but I'm starting to think I was mistaken, and that fire was just a memory of the other side.
Is Nyarlathotep talking to you as you think of it? Okay, right.
Right. But I think in both versions, Tatsuya Pseudo starts hearing voices because of rumors, and in Innocent Sin, he burns down a shrine. In Eternal Punishment, his father commits him to a sanitarium. I think is what happens because in Innocent Sin, he also reaches out to one of his teachers, who's June's father, June's father supporting those weird conspiracy prophecies is part of what tears their family apart. And June's mother is a Joker in this TV studio dungeon.
Wow, the linearity here is making me want a David Lynch movie.
There's a lot. Yeah, it's about as linear as Jeremy Bearimy for you Good Place fans out there.
Yeah, that's about right.
But yeah, again, this is two parallel timelines that are crisscrossing and getting super weird. And because other people besides the two Tatsuyas are starting to remember events of the other the other timeline, it's like basically things are starting to spiral out of control. But at least where I am in the game right now, you're a group of people trying to take down this new world order. And I don't think we mentioned why Nate and the gang are going into the sewer and lab dungeons. The TV studio dungeon happens because Ellie, who has some connections in the entertainment world because she's a model, wants to confront Wanglong Chizuru, who knowingly said these interviewed on live TV the stuff about the Joker curse that made the rash of Joker appearances happen. So your goal is to confront Chizuru, but when you get there, it's revealed that Chizuru is a sorceress with a black cat familiar, and the black cat traps you in this feng shui dungeon that is a pain in the rear. But again, but it wasn't that bad because again, like the grind of dungeon running in this game, it's not nearly as bad as a lot of its contemporary RPGs.
Not so far, at least.
Yeah,
I've heard it gets worse.
Oh boy,
there's a couple
as long as I can still cast multi-hitting elemental spells.
Yeah, that is all I need.
Yeah, get Meltdown and Estema, and you're happy. Yeah,
Estema is still the best spell in this game. By
Estema
far.
is very, very crucial, and I realized I had made a grave mistake when I accidentally traded in or mutated my Estema persona.
Oh no!
I think it was. Oh shoot! It was
Hote?
right around. I don't remember what it was, but I definitely got rid of it right before a large or medium-sized dungeon. And one other thing that helps in the dungeons is they give you a pretty good map system. And when you go, but when you go into the bomb shelter and you don't have a map until you find the map in the dungeon, that made me never want to enter that bomb shelter ever again.
I'm sick of that bomb shelter.
Right,
I don't want to ever go to that bomb shelter.
I've been
the
there.
bomb shelter is optional, right?
Yeah,
it is. Yes.
Okay, that's very good to know because
there's good stuff hidden in there. But I was stuck in the very first section of it for 45 minutes, like about ready to cry until I finally found the map, and that let me find my way out. And I think there's 7 or 8 sections of it, and the first one was such a pain. I don't want to do the bomb shelter ever again. But it's like the factory in Innocent Sin. Each floor of it is sort of has monsters or demons from the previous story dungeon. So if you want to farm cards or encounter those personas or just get the treasure in the bomb shelter. That's where you have to navigate. But because of the map stuff and because I rely on the map a lot in this game, I never want to go back.
The loading time with the map is like enormous. Like I just feel like it takes forever to move back and forth between them.
It's a few seconds when I wish it was much less.
I mean, it's a few seconds that I have to use like, I don't know, 7 times on every floor of every dungeon.
It's not as bad as like the PlayStation version of Chrono Trigger, but it is an inconvenience.
Nothing is as bad as that.
Is anyone filling out the maps for that guy?
Oh, I got one of them, but then I realized how ultra specific he needs them.
Oh yeah, he wants every tile.
Yeah. When I saw how tight he needs them, I decided, you know what? I think this guy will be one of those optional side quests that I keep as an option.
I remember telling Alana about the map guy way back.
I remember that. Yeah, we did Innocent Sin. I remember that. Yeah. I did
You
one.
were
I
not
got
impressed.
a very important card, and I will never do it again.
I did the same thing. Yeah, I did it for the lab as well. So I had to do every square on the laboratory and the sewer. Or was it laboratory? Was it one of the other dungeons? It was one of them. I hated it. I was in that dungeon for about 3.5 hours. I'm never doing that map quest again.
I did that in the mall, and because with Ellie you can't get the card until the mall,
Right?
And yeah, the mall like should be like a 20-minute dungeon. It was a 3-hour dungeon for me. So.
Yeah, it's not a challenging dungeon to navigate, but it does have a non-trivial amount of space. Like there's just a lot of empty space in that dungeon, and having to caterpillar my way up and down it would sounds miserable. Like I would rather literally till a field instead of till a map to make every light purple tile become dark purple.
Yeah,
I agree.
And the problem with the laboratory is that that dungeon has squares that have SP and HP draining them trapped on. You also have to tread on them because they count as you have to activate every single trap, open every single chest, and touch every single switch.
I'm very glad I did the Ellie route. Thank you.
I didn't warn you about this. So.
You did not.
Speaking of the map guy, there's a lot of stuff to just do around town that really adds to the character of the town, and some of it is, I mean, some of it is trivial, like you spread a rumor that this clothing store sells armor, and then that becomes true. Which is a holdover from Innocent Sin, but there's also man searches where one of the lady bartender at one of the restaurants will pay you for solving missing persons cases, and that gives you a lot of yen for rewards. Like eventually it's like 100K or 200K per search, which is definitely worth it.
She's my favorite NPC.
I know, I remember from last time. Yeah.
She's great.
And every single neighborhood, and it's just like districts in Tokyo. So like maybe they are based in real districts in Tokyo, like my favorite series of the past 18 months, which I don't need to mention on this podcast. But like every one of them has their own healing site. And at one of them, it's a spa. At one of them, it's an aromatherapy clinic. At one of them, it's a chiropractor with golden fingers, who's very amusing. Oh God! One of them is a tanning salon, and then that guy's an obvious creeper. Yeah. But like, there's so much character to this that like every new place you unlock has 5 or 6 stores, and the Tadashi convenience store has a different remix of the theme for every location. like just the little things like that are, I don't know. You can sort of feel the designers just having fun and getting a little weird with the design of this city, and I deeply appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the convenience stores in particular are fun because the more you go in, like especially with Nanjo, he's like, oh, this song is really catchy. No, wait, no, I'm not going to sing it. And then you go and talk to like the shopkeepers, and over time, they are the most obviously being brainwashed because they keep like changing their speech pattern, and they're like, they get more and more determined to like make more sales and like, oh, I'm going to do this for the New World Order. I'm going to do this for this and that. And it's always
it's working because I have bought like 1,700 magazines from them.
Yeah. Oh God,
yeah.
The magazines. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Innocent Sin as well. The stores are very fun because there's a rumor that the song makes you buy things.
Yes.
And you can often talk to the NPCs and they're like, I don't want this, but I feel compelled to buy it.
Have you ever heard of the greatest magazine sweepstakes story in Japanese history?
I have not.
Maybe you have. Okay, this is something that actually happened, and when I first heard about it, I did a research deep dive on it. There's a guy who basically in the early 2000s got on this reality show where he was basically locked into an apartment and he was not given anything except the clothes on his back and a bunch of magazines. So he tried to live in this apartment alone, never leaving it by only ordering things from magazine sweepstakes.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he first started out with nothing, but then eventually got some food. And he did not realize this, but he was being live streamed the entire time, and then it was being edited into a TV show.
Oh my
And because he
God.
was walking
What
around
kind
naked,
of Truman Show?
yeah, a little bit. But then it was because he was walking around naked all the time. The edited version of the show replaced his bathing suit area with a giant eggplant, which he was called Nasubi-san or Eggplant-san.
Oh my god!
And and then
Eggplants
after he makes enough money from sweepstakes to win, which was the goal from the beginning, they instead of like bringing him home, they put him back into another apartment because he was popular enough that they wanted the second season of the show, but he wasn't even aware it was becoming popular. He does the exact same thing again, finally wins again, and then when they take him to another empty room after he wins, he goes, well, I guess I'm doing this again. So he strips naked, but then the walls come down and there's a giant studio audience cheering him.
What?
So like there is just some weird tradition of magazine sweepstakes in Japan where that's probably bigger there than it is in most other countries. And when I was filling out like hundreds of magazine subscriptions to try and get weapons and armor from the Satomi Tadashi convenience stores, I'm like, man, like this is basically like a more social version of Eggplant-san. And the only reason I know any about that is because Eggplant-san was a minor character in one season of Kamen Rider.
Oh, of course.
Well,
There
of
you
course,
go.
I knew. I was like, how is it going to get back to Kamen Rider?
Right? How was I going to
There's no
force
one-
Tokus? Yeah, there's no Phoenix Ranger Featherman R in this game, so I had to bring Tokusatsu in somehow,
You did.
and
It
I
kinda
did it.
is.
I did it with magazine subscriptions and Eggplant-san. But yeah, if you want to see more details of that story, look up Nasubi, Nasubi, and his reality show Hell that he went through for several months in the early 2000s.
Jeez.
So yeah, apologies for that distraction, but I'm not even sure how to transition this back into Persona 2.
I think this is on the Retro Encounter Bingo when we're talking about naked people. It's time.
I'm usually great at a nonsense transition, but I'm at a loss right now. So what was everyone's favorite Persona so far?
Oh my god!
I really liked Bale. Bale has been very good on Baofu the past couple dungeons for me.
Bale's good. Bale's really good.
Yes.
I like Pixie.
Pixie is really useful for early game. You can get some really nice like trades for her. Yeah, I mean, it feels bad to say that I don't pay as much attention to some of the personas in this game as I would the other ones, mostly probably because you don't get any big flashy like animations with them or anything like that. Hote, just because they had Estoma, they were like my best friend.
Like I cheered as soon as I got Hote. I was like, I remember what this means.
Yeah,
it means Estoma, which is everything in this game.
Did anyone get my custom, by the way?
I did.
Yeah.
When I got Bale, I'm like, oh, this now I can finally retire Maya custom because she was my Rikarm and Mediarama user, and Bale has both of those plus better attack magic. So yeah,
right.
It felt bittersweet getting rid of her.
Yeah, I used her.
No, I didn't trade her in. She's in the bench right now because she deserves a place of honor.
I'm not going to turn you into an all-in sense. Don't you worry, my sweet.
I'm only gonna trade her in for cards if I really don't have enough room. But I would like to keep her around. But yeah, the Persona summoning system in this game is kind of cool that you can sort of fold cards and spell cards and stat cards to boost your persona every time you summon them. But still, it is a little miserable collecting free cards just to summon better persona.
I mean, I just find one persona and I milk that persona.
I mean, like I figure out whoever is like absorbs my I don't know, AoE basically. And then I'm like, I'm going to get all the free cards from you. So like I have like in the 900 free cards all the time.
Yeah.
Because like I just like there's like one persona that like I'm always like, I'm not going to fight you I am going to contact you and get the free cards, and so like I
Yes.
never have any problems with free cards.
Yeah,
I'm in the low hundreds for free cards, but it's like I'll just go through a dungeon, realize my personas are starting to flag a little bit, so then I'll just do nothing but contact demons for the next couple of encounters, and I'll end up with a couple hundred free cards. But like I wish it was. I like it better in Persona 3, 4, 5, where you just sometimes get new personas and then you can fuse them all together. It's
Yeah, I think I do prefer the fusion system. The best persona to do it with a magician persona, because they are resistant to a lot of magic and fusion spells, so I always grab one of those straight away, and I'm like, all right,
guy?
yeah.
Oh.
Oh my god.
No, thank you.
That was the thing I had to do in the lab. I had to fix the elevator. Would Rasputin turn up?
No, he will not turn up.
if he turns up, you're immediately switching from fighting to talking.
Yeah.
He has a room early and it's so stupid.
Oh really? Oh geez! Like getting rumors from demons is another like layer to the onion of the side content in this game that just goes a little too far.
That's why I've never got the ultimate weapons for these games. It's just I'm not doing it.
Right. There's so much cool side content that I appreciate, but then when you look at the depths of the side content, like getting real weird about mapping out dungeons and navigating the bomb shelter, it's like there's a ceiling that I'm not willing to reach here, and but the fact that it's all here is, it's impressive. Like I think the game is consistently cool and is throwing a lot of stuff at me, and I like it, but I don't need to do all of it, especially since I'm playing this for a podcast and have to play roughly a new game every month.
Yeah.
So you've not got any full tarot cards yet?
No. Oh no. I remember trying to do that in Innocent Sin, and I don't want to go anywhere near that this time.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I've touched the ceiling of a few rumors. Like in the second half, we'll talk about a couple which took me a long time. I am glad I started this ahead of time. But yeah, it can be incredibly frustrating because it's so luck based and RNG based, and then obviously the higher level you go, like the less frequent the lower level personas get because you're too high a level for them, and then it's just gonna turn into a vicious cycle of when will Leviathan turn up, because I'm now 7 levels above what it is. Like yeah,
that's when you got to go to the depths of the bomb shelter.
I'm in the middle of a back-to-back dungeon. I'm not going anywhere.
They do give you back-to-backs a couple times, because we have the sewer and lab, and there's also the mountain path and the sanitarium.
Yeah, there's another one coming up, which is probably the worst one. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
It's the cruise ship and the undersea ruins. So, yeah.
New location.
Yeah, new dungeons at least. They're not reused, but yeah.
All right. Well, I have that to look forward to, but I also, again, I've spoiled myself on a few things in the second half of this game, because I am one of the I care so little about spoilers that I never bothered myself about this. This is listeners. This is the thing about me that RPG fan staff hate the most: my disregard for spoilers.
I don't hate you. We're on the similar pages,
right? We still have a lot of Persona 2 left to play. I want to know, like. Zach, you and I are at roughly the same part of the game. Is there something in the second half that you expect to happen or want to happen that you're sort of maybe most looking forward to right now?
Honestly, I'm waiting for things to get incredibly insane. Like things are already insane. I mean, like New World Order and like all this other like thing. These are the things that, like, I don't know, like wrestling turned into like a total storyline, which means it's insane. But honestly, I'm looking for things to get wild, but also like I'm looking for things to like match up, like, because you can feel things moving towards Innocent Sin, and I want more Innocent Sin. If I'm being honest, like I feel like the end of Innocent Sin is so remarkable and so singular that I want more of that, which is maybe not fair to Eternal Punishment, but like I find myself comparing it to that and it coming short, and I want more of that first game from a story perspective.
Yeah, it feels like the timelines are converging, and I don't know what that will mean or what that will do, but I want to see what happens. Like in general, I just really like these characters, and I want to see what happens as the story gets crazier and as they learn more about everything that's happening. And honestly, like we saw a little bit of Lisa, Eikichi, and June in the story here. I think you see Lisa in the TV studio dungeon. Well, I know you do because I did it. And I think as a counterpart, is Eikichi in the lab somewhere?
He is. Yeah, he rescued him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was something about both of them disappearing, and I met Lisa when she's in the pop group, and then the pop manager ends up being a Joker and a boss in the next dungeon. But it's I want to see more of these really good characters, but as a like RPG storyline goes and an RPG of this era goes, I think it's entering my top 10 PS1 games. Alana and Zach, if we relitigate that top 10 PS1 games episode, I might have to include some space for Eternal Punishment, because I am really enjoying this for the most part.
I'm not sure if I can agree with that, but I appreciate that.
My list would be very different now, given that I've played Tactics and Lunar Silver Star Story since.
So Lunar at number 2.
Tactics at number 1.
Don't tell me what to do.
My first ever podcast for Lunar.
You did.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic! I think I knew that, but I just forgot.
Yeah,
because
I am so upset that Lunar 1, 2, and then Suikoden 2 were the 3 game journals right before I joined this website.
Oh no!
I have done a lot of podcasts on this website, so I have forgotten some details, like whose first podcast and things of that nature. But Leona, it is a joy podcasting with you again, because it has been several months, and I'm not quite counting your cameo in episode 300 as a full podcast.
No.
But Jake Cocoon.
We can make
Jake Cocoon for Retro Encounter when?
Here's some people that vote for it.
I was going to say, you didn't vote for it, Zach.
I'm sorry. Skies of Arcadia. I'm so sorry.
I ironically, I did vote for Jade Cocoon, but the overall winner ended up being Skies of Arcadia. And listeners, you probably knew this.
That's
Skies of
fair, I guess.
Skies of Arcadia will be a Retro Encounter episode sometime in early 2022. But
Jade Cocoon will be in Retro Encounter the 10 years after.
No, we'll make it soon.
Are you're saying I'm still doing this in 10 years? Oh boy, I don't want to make any commitments I can't keep. But all right, if we're talking about 2022 and Retro Encounter, maybe it's time to end the episode and maybe go a little bit into late 2021 in Retro Encounter. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this Persona 2 Eternal Punishment discussion. We will have this and more to talk about next week, because all of us will hopefully have finished the game, and we will have many capital T thoughts on what is happening. But I need to get right back into playing as soon as we end this episode, because I think I'm on schedule to finish, but I can't chance that by taking a night off. But so we have more Persona 2 next week, but in October we already have all 4 episodes planned out. We're doing 2 episodes on Cosmic Star Heroine, that indie RPG from Z-Boyd Games, which is technically not very retro, but looks pretty retro, so it counts. We're doing 2 episodes on Cosmic Star Heroine in October, alongside 1 episode about another RPG Confessions episode. Alana, you were on one with me a few years ago, and Zach, you were also on one with me a few years ago.
I was not on one, but I will be on one with you soon.
That's right. Okay. Alana was on one, and Zach, you signed up for the new one. That's
Indeed, I did.
I cannot remember podcasts that I've recorded.
The last Confessions was before I was even on the site. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think early 2018 or early,
yeah. I think they might have been 2017 and 18 or something. They were a while ago. So it's finally time to bring that episode format back. It is coming next month. The only problem is I've played so many RPGs, I'm not sure what to confess this time.
I certainly have some options.
But if you want to reach out to RPG fans, Retro Encounter specifically, the best way to do so is to email retro@rpgfan.com. You can also visit rpgfan.com's main page and their message boards, or our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our Twitter page, our Discord server, our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel, something streaming every day on Twitch. All of those are called RPG Fan or RPG Fan.com. RPGFan.com also hosts 3 other podcasts: Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness, Rhythm Encounter every 2 weeks about RPG music, and Phoenix Edge usually every week, usually about current events, but they also can go off the rails a little bit, like our podcast is wont to do. You can review all 4 of those podcasts, including Retro Encounter, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you listen. Please leave feedback. We love feedback, but we also love ourselves, so let's share ourselves with you. Listeners, how can you reach us individually? Let's tell them, starting with you, Alana.
You can find me on Twitter at Alana Hagues, or you can find me on the RPG Fan Discord as Alana.
And now, Leona.
You can find me on Twitter, Discord, and I stream on Twitch at Star Mongoose.
You also have your own...
And I also made a game.
Yeah, you also have your own Discord server and your own game development career that you're allowed to plug a little bit here if you like.
I have a game called Immortal Saga that is on the style of Fire Emblem, and you can find that on itch.io. And yeah, I have a Discord of my own, but you can just find that through my Twitch.
Excellent. And Zach, how can listeners find you?
You can find me on Discord at ZachW, and you can also find me on RPG Fan's email system at ZachW@RPGFan.com.
And listeners, you've heard me say this possibly 250 times or more. I am most easily found on Twitter. I'm at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoker for Dogs other times, and I'm also on RPG Fans Discord as Monsoon Mike. But let's see, we're all adults here, so we need to find our place in the world, unmask our true selves, and I don't know, just play this game for a couple more dozen hours. Thank you, good night, and good luck.